a number of studies, books, publications of various kinds dealing with the ages and stages of child development. A very famous one is the one on child behavior, written through the auspices of the Giselle Institute by Ilg and Ames. It takes the ages and stages of development from birth up to about 6 years of age. Another set of materials of this kind is this journal on the story of life. Here we see two youngsters of a preschool age. Then there is this one of the 10-year-old child, the 10-year-old girl, and here is the profile of the 11-year-old child. These studies are very useful. They describe what you might expect at various ages and stages of development. They are, for the most part, descriptive and not really analytical and to showing the causes, the reasons for things. They are helpful, but it's important to remember that if you take any group of 100 children of a given age, of the same age, 25 will have moved ahead of that stage of development. 25 will not yet have reached that stage of development, and 50 will be in the stage of development. So this is important to remember, that you don't say, aha, this child is this age and he's obviously, it has to be that kind of development. He may or may not be with it. Well, let us now go to a review of phases of development that we introduced at a previous time, and I want to relate them to the preschool, the school-age child, and so forth. Right here at the first step, the infancy age, the stage of overcoming or developing trust and overcoming mistrust. This is the very early childhood, and then up until about 2 years of age. In this stage, physical comfort, ingestion, digestion, elimination, warmth, and so forth are the primary physical characteristics. There's a minimum of fear. These children will demonstrate or manifest a startle reflex if they hear a loud noise or if they moved rather suddenly. Then we move into the second stage here, where the child develops some autonomy. He overcomes doubt and shame. This is a period when the child has more mobility. He explores, he does, he develops some new modalities of, he can hold things and let go with his hand. This is the toilet training stage where he can hold and let go also. Self-control, pride, autonomy. On the one hand, no control, doubt, and shame may be the consequences of this stage. Now this is generally we call the preschool child from here up until about age 5. The third stage of development here then is the one in which the child develops initiative. He overcomes guilt. This is a period of energetic learning. He sees himself and others as a boy or a girl. There is the rudimentary conscience at that time, the very beginnings of what should be done or what should not be done, some ideas of right and wrong. Child at this stage needs parents or other adults as models and as brakes, for they have a very incomplete ego at this stage. Children need two forms of play: the solitary playing out, dreaming out, and also other children to play out and learn about interaction with other people. So then we move into the school-aged child here, which begins in the when the child is about 5 years of age and comes up to about through grade 11th year of life. This is the school-age child is the one we want to focus on today. So let us consider some of the characteristics. This is a stage where the child has abundant energy to master whatever he's going to do. He tends to want to produce things, he competes. It's interesting that the competition with other children is not so much to eliminate the others, but rather to measure his own skills and worth. Winning a game or winning something isn't so terribly important as being able to do and show one's skills. There is an opposing pull, however, toward the previous level of functioning. He's still a little child. He's an incomplete person. Hence, there are some feelings of inferiority. He is lesser than the adults. At this point, sexuality is latent. Now, looking again at some of these characteristics, most children in most societies start school at about 5 or 6. In our country, the kindergarten starts at age 5. In many other schools, the first grade starts at 5, in England, for example. In kindergarten usually signifies the child's first break away from home. The first day at the, quotes, big school usually is awaited with excitement, a good deal of tension, anxiety, some happiness about it among some children. It's tinged with some apprehension by both the mother and the child. The mother is apt to feel a lump in her throat. She realizes the child is entering a stage of life in which he will have many important experiences which will not include her. The child may be tearful or struggling to fight back the tears as he enters this new and strange place, full of new faces, equipment, things. His shyness and homesickness usually fades away rather quickly because he is made to feel welcome. He has a friendly chat among people, with people who are interesting and kind. The decorations are cheerful. So he begins to relax. Now, there is a problem in behavior, sometimes called school phobia. Literally, that would mean fear of the school. But actually, it's not so much fear of the school, but fear and anxiety that the child experiences as being away from mother, or the anxiety of leaving mother. And this is more properly called separation anxiety. Even though the child develops trust and develops some degree of autonomy, he is still essentially dependent upon the parents for security. At about age 5, they can handle separation within limits. In taking a history of a child, even at 5, 6, or 8, it's helpful to inquire about the experience of leaving home to go to school. Was there some anxiety attached? It's significant because you may be coping with a problem of separation anxiety in the clinic. Separation of the child from the mother in the clinic has some advantages, particularly for the dentist. the child's attention is not divided between you and the mother. The child looks to you for guidance, for direction setting, things of this sort. You may feel more comfortable if mother is not looking over your shoulder. However, separation of some children from their parents prematurely may create behavior problems. If there is a strong symbiotic tie between the child and parent, the fear and anxiety related to separation may be overwhelming. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, I happened to be walking up the steps at the time that a student was leading a 3-year-old child up to his cubicle without the mother. I followed them because I suspected that there would be a small crisis. The child's face indicated that she was about to cry. When she got to the cubicle and he seated her in the chair, tears did fall. Well, this was his first encounter with the child. This was a strange person. She didn't know him. I think in this case, particularly with younger children, separation should be a little more gradual. So I suggested that he go on and get the mother, bring her to the cubicle while I entertained the child. And she played with my finger and we talked a little bit, and the mother came in, and the student had not completed his history taking, so we let the mother sit in the chair with the child in her lap. Then he completed the history taking and did some preliminary examinations of the child's mouth while sitting in the mother's lap. This child then felt safe. At another appointment, when she had become accustomed to the student, then she could leave the mother. One of our graduates invited me to his office some years ago, and when I walked into the waiting room, I noticed that he had a bulletin board with many pictures of children. He said the children like to see their pictures up there. They think it's quite something. And as we were talking, I asked him about how does he handle the mother. And he says that in 75% of the instances, he prefers to have the mother in the operatory with him. The reason is that he sees this as an opportunity to teach mother. Sometimes the mother's presence becomes destructive, and in those cases, he has the mother sit in the waiting room. He instructs the mother into what is expected of her. He helps her to learn the role that she is expected to take. A pedodontist, I think it was Dr. Addison of New York, wrote an article in which he indicated that in his practice, the mother sits in the silent seat. So he instructs her how she can help the child rather than compete with the dentist for the child's attention. Every child experiences both pleasant and unpleasant emotions. Which of these will dominate his development depends in large measure upon the environment to which he grows up and his relationship with the people in the environment. The child who has had predominantly happy experiences will grow up to be a happier, better adjusted adult than the child who has had a prolonged history of unhappy experiences. The child who experiences a few unhappy and stressful situations is not likely to be affected by these as he becomes an adult. Let us look now to the flannel board for a moment to look at some other characteristics. In the early years of this particular stage, from 5 to about 11, the child is pretty much identified with the mother, learning and doing things very closely. Then we start the child off to school. And the mother many times takes the child to kindergarten or accompanies the child and then leaves or stays all day and then expects the child to go on his own later on. As the child gets more maturity and can move and go on his own, he gets a sense of accomplishment, a sense of achievement. Okay, in the school, then he begins to fumble around and draw things and do things and finds that there is pleasure to it. And so he's adding to some elementary knowledge and skills that he has. This is a stage when group activities are very important. And so we have brownies and Cub Scouts, youngsters engaged in group activities at this time, a way of learning how to get along with others at the same time of learning about others and also developing some skills in doing things, as learning to tie ropes or in learning to swing a bat and hit the ball. Along with this, as he goes along into the school program and goes up the level, first, second, third grades and on up, then becomes a little more technical. He learns more skills and techniques, and then he's doing things. Later on, there is a very important stage where the child has a pal. This is an important stage that kids need to have a pal. Most of the time, these relationships are boy to boy or girl to girl. This is a kind of tweenage, especially for the older children here, the 9, 10-year, 11-year-old children. These children are too old to cuddle, but still incapable of being treated as adults. Next time you have Halloween, I watch the kids come by, and the little ones dressed up in their various costumes, and the older ones, they still have to hold on to this, but they feel kind of embarrassed about coming in and getting the candy. Again, they're too old to cuddle, but still incapable of being treated as adults. I meant to show this a moment ago. The Story of Life has a picture of this group of children learning to play ball. And this is a big age among children, boys particularly, of little leagues, pee-wee leagues, and things of this sort. An age of groups. Someone said it takes 4 boys to form a group. One boy who has the idea, one who makes the rules, one who has the nickel for dues, and then one who under no circumstances can be admitted to the club. Children learn mastery of themselves through play and doing things in the laboratory. They can do things in play that they cannot do under other circumstances. They can try out things that are not apt to be criticized. They work out many psychological problems through play, including going to the doctor. Mrs. Bowen, who used to be our registrar, told me this interesting little vignette of life. Her neighbor child was was nearly 6 years of age. She had a little brother who was about 3.5 or so, and they were playing man and wife. So they came over to Miss Bowen to visit and were acting real grown up and said, "Miss Bowen, we have come to visit you." And Miss Bowen entered into the fantasy and invited them in. And then they sat and talked and grown-up talk, and after a while Miss Bowen invited the children to have some lemonade and cookies, and they played the game. Well, after a while, Miss Bowen said that she began to feel it's time for the kids to go home, but they were still playing the game, and then at one point she said, would you all like to have some more lemonade? And the little girl says, no, thank you. I think we have to go home now. You see, my husband has wet his pants. If you have children at home, or if you have children in the neighborhood, watch them and learn. Strong conflicts often occur within the family group. The teacher is often seen as someone special and clever. She is a paragon of knowledge and in their eyes. At this age, the necessity of the mother figure has dwindled somewhat. Most children view the teacher as a friend. So the child comes to recognize that his family is not omnipotent, that there are other people who are better than the parents in some ways. These children, especially the older ones, tend to reach outside the family to identify themselves with other figures, the scoutmaster, or the Cub Scout mother, or teachers, or the neighbor, or the dentist. Dentists become involved with many children in these ages and stages of development. The dentist's genuine interest in the child will promote rapport. These children have many questions to ask. They have discovered that they can get embarrassed at times. When they ask certain questions, the adults tend to consider them naive and laugh at them or kid them, and they get cut off pretty short sometimes, ridiculed. If you listen respectfully and you recognize the gropings of an immature child, you can help him fend off some sense of inferiority. Remember, the bragging behavior is very likely to be a mask for feelings such as doubt or inferiority or anxiety. An excessively shy child, by his behavior, may be transmitting a message of doubt, fear, and anxiety. Dr. Junot, who wrote an interesting book, Between Parent and Child, has a subtitle, the book that tells you how to talk childrenese, the new way to get through to your child, has a story that I want to refer to now. The little boy, Andy, is aged 10 years. So he asks his father, what's the number of abandoned children in Harlem? The father, a chemist and an intellectual, was glad to see his son take interest in these kinds of problems, social problems. So he gave a long lecture on the subject and then looked up the figure and gave it to him, but Andy was not satisfied. He kept on asking the same subject. How many abandoned children in New York City or United States or in Europe? Finally, it occurred to the father that his son was concerned not about a social problem, but by a very personal problem. His question stemmed not so much from sympathy for abandoned children as from fear of being abandoned. He was looking for a figure for reassurance for himself. Another case, when Bruce started kindergarten at age 5, mother was with him, and Bruce asked very loudly, "Who made those ugly pictures?" Well, mother was embarrassed. She looked at her son disapprovingly and said, "It's not nice to call pictures ugly when they're so pretty." Well, the teacher understood the meaning of his question and smiled and said, "In here, you don't have to paint pretty pictures. You can paint mean pictures if you want to. So the boy smiled. He had gained an answer to his hidden question. What happens to a boy who doesn't paint very well? Next, he picked up a toy, an engine, and asked very self-righteously, who broke this fire engine? And again, the mother said, what difference does it make who broke it? You don't know him. But Bruce was not interested in names. He wanted to find out what happens to boys who break toys. Understanding the question, the teacher gave the appropriate answer. Toys are for play. Sometimes they get broken. So Bruce's interviewing had provided some very important answers to Bruce. Here was a grown-up who was pretty nice. She didn't get angry quickly, even when a picture comes out ugly. She's can understand how toys get broken, so he felt safe. So I would suspect that you will have questions of similar nature asked you. Questions that are explicit in terms of the literal words, but the implicit meaning is the one that you will need to attend to. And at a later time, I will discuss communication in terms of explicit and implicit meaning.